Hey everyone, how's it going? This is Brandon, Digital Marketing Director here at Pawson Insurance, the best and most convenient way to purchase your insurance in Connecticut. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about a question we constantly get at our agency. And that question has to do with whether your property is located in or anywhere near a flood zone. And this is something that I think a lot of people don't pay attention to, because for the most part, flooding isn't necessarily something that you're affected by, especially in Connecticut. We might hear about it or see it on the news, but for the most part, we can't say that we've personally been affected by a flood. But it still matters, and it's still important for you to be aware of the situation. And say if you are in a flood zone, it's probably safe to assume that your home lender will force you to have flood insurance on that property. The problem with flood insurance is that depending on where the property is located, what kind of flood zone it's in, if at all, it can be potentially very, very expensive to maintain flood insurance on that property on an annual basis. That being said, you really can't just ignore the fact that you could potentially be in a flood zone. So, what exactly do you have to do in terms of figuring out if your property is in a flood zone? Well, in this video, we'll break it down for you. So, I'm actually going to provide a live example of how to check if a property is in a flood zone. So for this example, I'm going to use the U.S. Postal Service location in Stony Creek, which is a coastal area in Branford, Connecticut. This property is located relatively close to the water, which you can see in this Google map. So it's probably safe to assume that it is in a flood zone, but it's probably not safe to just assume this. It's better to check on the FEMA website, which is run and maintained by the US government. So now I'm on the FEMA website, which I'll include in the notes in the description below. And from here, it's relatively easy to just either enter the address, or if you have the longitude or latitude coordinates, to just copy and paste that into this section. Because the address is conveniently located on this Google Map listing, I'm just going to copy and paste that here and enter it right into the search bar. All right, now I will scroll down to the map, which it indicates on this pin the specific location. And as you can see, if I zoom out a little bit, this clearly indicates that this section is in a flood zone. But there's various flood zones. So as you can see here, zone VE and zone AE. So I'm just going to assume that you don't know what these zones mean. And I'll provide a PDF in the show notes below that will break down each specific flood zone and what they mean. So, as we can see here, this location is in zone AE. So I'm going to jump over to this PDF, which indicates that this is in a high-risk area. Zone AE is a 10-year flood plan. And to break that down a little bit further, Zone AE is an area that has around 1% annual chance of flooding, which they indicate as a high-risk area. All right, so if you found out that you are in a flood zone and need to share this information with, say, your partner or a home loaner or an insurance agent, you can actually export this information from the dynamic map, which will export into a PDF. And from there, you can obviously show that information to that person, and it'll also indicate the day that you exported it. So if any amendments, as you can see over here, or revisions were done, it will indicate specifically the date that you exported it, just to make sure that the information aligns with that specific date. So there's another great website that we use, and I personally prefer because it's a lot more user-friendly, and it doesn't look as outdated as the FEMA websites. So the website is called floodtools.com, and I'll actually list this in the show notes below. And all you have to do, like before, is to copy and paste the specific location or address into the search bar. And then from there, it'll give you a very similar map in real time. And this time around, it's going to indicate it in red. And as you can see in the menu that'll appear to the right here, that this specific location is in a flood zone, is a high-risk flood zone. And you can also see the flood losses, flood claims, the average claim, and active policies in this area that have been updated in the past 10 years, which is really, really cool information to see there, which is actually not provided on the FEMA website. You can actually look at floodplains, historical floods, other hazards, dams, levees, protected areas. If that has been updated, this specific area does not indicate that any of those are in this area. It's also cool to see the hurricanes that have come through this area. So if you're relatively new to Connecticut and want to see if this location is prone to hurricanes. So that's pretty much it for the layout of this website. I strongly encourage you guys to check it out. It has some really, really helpful information that you probably won't see or find on the FEMA website. So that's pretty much it. I appreciate you guys watching this video. And if you want more information or unsure if your house is in a flood zone or considering flood insurance in Connecticut, head on over to Pawson.com and you'll be able to speak with an agent that will walk you through the steps to finding the best insurance policy.